Can all start? Thank you for coming out here. My name is Francis Karani. I'm the co-chair of the Green Liaisons. Emily Berke is the other co-chair, but she'll be coming. She's a bit late, but she'll be coming soon. So today we have the privilege of having Mr. Lu, who is a UD alumni.
Yes.
And he's come to present a unique presentation today about birds and their conservation. So just a brief bio of Lu. Fostered by a passion for working with animals from an early age, Pang Lu has been training animals for nearly 2 decades. With a background in avian rehabilitation, education, airport bird abatement, free flight show production, and zoo animal and staff training, Pang provides consultation services to U.S. zoos and conservation organizations around the world. His work with zoos focuses on staff and animal training for medical management, husbandry care, and public interpretation. Pang also works with other organizations, providing free flight training consultation or free flight bird programs through his companies. His philosophy of training focuses on effective use of positive reinforcement techniques and early behavioral development. Pang manages and trains a small collection of 60 birds when not on the road, representing the 2 companies he owns and operates. One is the Behavior and Training Solutions, Inc. This is a behavior and training consulting company, and Animal Behavior and Conservation Connections is another, which is a traveling free flight bird program production company. So welcome, Lu. And I hand you over to Lu.
Thank you, Francis. That sounds so formal, everything he just said. So let me just summarize real quick. We basically work with animals using positive reinforcement methods and focus on conservation of wild animals. So that's a lot shorter, right, Francis? But what we do today is we're going to show you some birds, some fun exotic birds, and just give you a little bit of a kind of a little introduction to what we do generally when we travel to zoos or state parks or schools. Ultimately, what we try and do is make a connection with people and with kids, to inspire them to foster a caring attitude, and then the rest we hope they kind of take on their own. Kind of like what you're doing now is to try and find ways to be sustainable. We don't do that. We try and help kids find reasons to do that, right? So we try and give them a connection with animals so there's a reason to be sustainable. There's a reason that we should recycle and so on and so forth. So without further ado, we'll just introduce you to the birds. We'll make this pretty informal, folks, so if you have questions during the presentation, feel free to ask questions. Most of the birds will be flying around, so don't mind them if they do land on you. That's part of the program, is that they will land on you. So if anybody's got fear of birds, you may want to go inside. Or it may be good therapy for you. People pay big bucks for this. Come on in, ladies. And I think anyone, even if they're not in your group, I would encourage, if they're students or people going by, invite them to join you, if you let them. Don't be greedy. All right, so let's start. Some of you might have seen her flying around earlier today already. This is Eeyore, and Eeyore is a silvery-cheeked hornbill. They're normally found in Africa, in the forests of Africa, where they eat a variety of things. A lot of times fruits and insects and birds, and they'll catch insects and birds right out of the sky as well. And in our programs, what we try and do is to feature some natural behaviors of these animals, just so people can appreciate them for what they are. And the trumpeter hornbills will catch bugs and birds right out of the sky. We're going to try and see if she'll do that for you with this piece of grape here. Let's see. She's looking quite comfortable right now in this chill weather. She's kind of tucked in and seeking some shelter. But we'll see if she'll do some flying for us today. Eeyore, do you want to go fly a little bit? Yeah? Ready? Here we go. Atta girl. Good job. Nice job, Eeyore. See, they're very acrobatic. Very unique features about the trumpeter hornbill. You can see they have a large cast on their head, and a lot of that is for a couple reasons. One is to help them excavate cavities. They nest in cavities of trees. The females will mud themselves into a cavity and raise their chick. So the males will bring food to the female, and the female will never leave during that time. She's basically trapped in that cavity. And during that time, she molts new feathers. She grows new feathers and raises her chick. The male does all the work, brings all the food to her to feed the young and her. And then when they're ready, don't be eyeing those bristles. And when they're ready, she'll break out of the nest and free herself and the chicks as well. So that's how they do it in the wild. They fly out there and they catch their bugs and their birds. And let's see if she'll do that one more time for you guys over here. Ready? Whoa! Now, that's a close encounter of the bird kind. Go ahead and toss it to her.
That's a great story, though.
Good job, young lady. All right, Eeyore. Let's try that again. I think I asked her to fly really too low that time. She's got the grape in her beak, so I'm waiting for her to get that down before she can get the next one. What do you think? Here, let me help you. Can I help you? It's right there. Okay, got it. All right, good job. Want to try again? A little bit higher this time. Ready? Here we go. Atta girl. Good job, like that, right? Good job, Eeyore. Let's see if these guys will get a flight for you. Ready? Here we go. Nice job, Eeyore. Good job. How old is she? She's about 3 years old now. She was hatched in a zoo in a breeding program and raised for the purpose of education. Good job. So as you can see, this is the experience we try to create with our audience. Real close connections with them to kind of create a liking to animals. That's really what we try and do. Okay, so that's Eeyore, our silvery-cheeked hornbill. Right, young lady? Come on. There are a few ways we try and connect with our audience. That was one of them, where we just have the birds fly over top, get folks an idea of what birds are like, their maneuverability, give them a bit of an appreciation for them. Another way we do that is to actually have contact with our audience, which means we have a bird come visit one of our audience member. So, anybody want to come help us meet this next bird? Your hand went up pretty quick, young lady. I think you knew what was coming.
I did.
Why don't you come stand right here for me? I'm gonna go get our friend, and you're gonna put your hand out just like that, right in front of the sign. Perfect. Yeah? So we're gonna put a little treat right here for you. And I'm gonna go get Marvin. Marvin's in the car right now because I wanted to keep him a little warm. Hey, buddy. Ready? Attaboy. Hey, buddy. You ready? Yeah, you ready? Here we go, Marvin. What is your name?
Patrice.
Patrice. Marvin, meet Patrice. There you go. Attaboy. Good job, Marvin. Marvin here is a green Araceli. What does he look like to you? Looks like a toucan. That's right. It's in the toucan family. It's a cousin of the toucan. Green Araceli, as you can see, are much smaller. Oh, he just left you a present, Patrice. I'm going to borrow your napkin here, if I could. Yep. It's all right. It just wipes right off. It's all organic, right?
It's fine. We work with rats.
And you can see he's got a nice long beak, just like the toucan would. There you go. And there's one more piece left for you there, Marvin. You know, these guys are quite adaptable in the wild, just like toucans. They'll hop from tree to tree, and they can hang upside down, believe it or not. Their feet are quite strong. They hang upside down so they can reach hard to get fruits, for example. And these guys are not just fruit eaters, they're omnivores. And so they'll take advantage of anything that's available, even eggs, for example, eggs of birds. So they'll hang upside down, reach into a nest cavity, and grab an egg or two for breakfast. I think he likes you, Patrice.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just don't eat my earrings. Looking at my earrings like they should be edible.
Actually, you know what? He's looking at the sky. A lot of times they can see things we can't. There's a flock of vultures right up there. So he's trying to figure out what those are and if they're going to come down and get them or not.
That's a good question. We also have like big hawks and stuff around.
That's
here,
right.
so I assume.
Yeah, all the birds are much more aware of the environment than we are. You know, they'll see things out there way before we can see them. And so sometimes we take our cues from them and they'll tell us what's happening out there.
It would be a size factor, right? More than actual like species or type of bird, right? Because if he's not native to this area, it's just like big bird scary no matter what. Or
Yeah.
do they even recognize like?
Yeah, the question is if they recognize predatory animals and if it's harmful to them or not. They usually will recognize predatory animals regardless of the species. There's something that's innate about that recognition. I mean, we have birds that we've raised that have never had any experience with wild birds or wild hawks or falcons, but the very first time they see them in the wild, they react appropriately. You know, so there's something innate that teaches them to react a certain way. So it's a innate trait. But they learn over time, though. They learn that if that hawk that they've seen the first time doesn't come down and eat them, then the response becomes less and less so. But they still are very much aware of what's out there. Okay, Marvin, you did great. Patrice, you did great too. Thank you very much. What's your question?
What type of bird?
Oh, this is a green araceli. A green araceli, they're normally found in the rainforests of Central and South America. Okay. Let me put them back. Very distinguishable visually.
And does that vary based on like more tropical birds tend to just be more vibrant and?
That's very on, well, just with the araceli species, that's how they're identified as male and female, but it doesn't change based on what region they're from. It's always that way. Yeah. Patrice, I'm going to give you a feather as a gift for being a volunteer. These feathers we harvest from our birds. Harvest, I mean when they drop naturally. I don't mean we go and pluck them. Every year the birds molt their feathers naturally, so they grow in new ones. And so we collect them and we give them out to our volunteers. And there's also another purpose for them too that I'll share with you in a little bit here. All right, so let's we've played with a little couple tropical birds. So let's go to something more serious, shall we? Hey, buddy. Hey. We work with a variety of exotics as well as native species. Today I have mostly, I think all exotics, I think. Oh, by the way, if you're interested in seeing more of our program, we're going to be doing a program for Ag Day. I think it's end of April. We've been there for the last several years, so we'll be back there again this year as well. This is Oliver.
Oliver.
And Oliver is a white-faced scops owl. It looks very similar to a screech owl. If you folks are familiar with the native species around here, screech owls are the smallest owl we have in this region, and they look similar, but this is a white-faced scops owl. They're normally found in Africa. So I'm walking around, let you folks take a closer look. Feel free to take photos if you like. And just look real carefully at some of the features. I mean, they're very unique.
You said Africa?
Yes, from Africa, southern Africa. There you are.
Hello.
Just study the features of the owls. They're very unique from other species of birds. Very highly developed eyes. Very uniquely developed feather patterns.
Feathers are beautiful.
And generally most owls will have very unique feather patterns. What can you conclude by seeing Oliver's feather patterns? What would they be for? Is there a purpose? Camouflage, that's right. Yep. Yeah, it's quite obvious, right? These guys love to sit next to a tree next to a bark of a tree, and generally it would blend in the same coloration. Again, he's just spotted a vulture up there, just like Marvin did.
He's just
He's barking at the vulture.
He's so small.
These guys are Napoleon in their mentality. You can take him.
What's up with his little mustache? Like, what's the perk of the?
That's a very good question, a very good observation. So like I mentioned before, these guys have very unique adaptations. So everything about them is geared towards survival. And the mustache, as you were asking, are whiskers, almost like cat whiskers. And they actually have a function. In the wild, when these guys go down to catch a mouse, when they fly down and grab a mouse or an insect of some sort, because their eyes are so valuable to them, right? They're so big and so critical in their survival. As a natural adaptation, is they close their eyes to protect their eyes. But when they close their eyes, they can't see quite well, so they feel with the whiskers, right? So watch what happens when I try to activate those whiskers. Oh, he's refusing to do it right now. Generally, if this works, if he was a trained bird, he would open his beak and nibble at my finger, because that's the response. That's the natural response, right? So when they go down and grab a mouse, they close their eyes and protect their eyes, and they feel with those whiskers where that mouse is, deliver a bite. Once the mouse is dead, then they can open up their eyes. It's kind of amplified in Albert, right? Just bigger of everything.
He's got a bigger tail too. The other one didn't have much of a tail.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And the tail also functions. I mean, a lot of times, everything about animals has a function, right? We simply just don't notice it very well, but everything about them has a function. So, for example, she was mentioned that he's got a longer tail, which is very true, comparing to his size and ratio. But the function of that is because he's a much more active hunter of open fields, where he might dodge around trees and branches to catch his prey. A bird like Oliver has a much shorter tail, where he's more of a stalk and capture predator. So he would sit up in a tree and just fly down and grab a mouse that's scurrying underneath. So he's not as much of a pursuit type of a predator, whereas this one would be. And so this tail would help him almost like a rudder to be able to steer when in flight.
How long did you say the owls live?
How long do the owls live? An owl this size now, generally the larger they are, the longer lifespan they have. This bird here could live to about 25, 30, maybe 40 years in captivity. In the wild, that number is quite reduced, probably half of that in the wild, because they face a lot more challenges in the wild. Predator, poisoning, electrocution, hunting, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Can your birds,
Do they get along?
Yeah.
They can get along once.
Oh. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no training them to like, oh.
There's no lovey-dovey type in predatory world. I mean, the reality, I'm joking a little bit, but in reality, they don't live together, right? They don't exist together. If we really wanted to push the issue, we could condition them to tolerate each other, but the instinct is always there. You know, if you put a small owl next to a big owl, that big owl's that looks like lunch, you know? And sooner or later, that will look like lunch, no matter how much condition we put in, you know?
And this is a little off tangential, but then when you see things like at a zoo, a dog has adopted tiger pups or something, is that the same type of tolerance, or is it different between like avians and mammals? You can teach avians tolerance, but mammals will actually like really get along.
No, you can teach them, but reality is that dog that has adopted that tiger will only adopt that tiger for a few months. After a couple years, that dog will also become lunch as well. Yeah. Sorry, I'm busting all your bubbles, you know? Yeah. A lot of that is marketing, right? Makes it look cute and promotional. Yeah. Yes.
The vocalizations in Rittenhouse Park, I hear the hoo 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 at night. Is that barn owl, or who is that? One of these guys?
Yeah. Generally, in this region, we have two main large owls. One is the great horned owl, which looks very similar except a little bit smaller, and the other is a barred owl. Right. Barred owl doesn't have ear tufts. If you're describing a hoot call, it's likely to be a great horned owl, Yeah, but if it's more of a gaggle type drawn out call, then it's likely to be a barred owl. Yeah.
Will they be in vicinity of each other?
They can. They don't like it, but they can. It all depends on resource, right? It all depends on how much food is available. So if there's plenty of food, then they won't mind each other. But if the food is scarce, then they will mind each other. And generally, the great horned owl will push the barred owl out of the
What do
territory.
they eat?
They pretty much eat anything they want. Especially
I
the
have eagles and ospreys that eat whatever they want.
especially
Left.
especially the great horned owl. Or you mean the owls or the eagles?
Yeah, owls, what do they eat?
The owls will eat. The great horned owls is a very capable hunter, and so I do mean they pretty much eat anything they want.
Oh, like the rabbits and squirrels and the
Yeah, great horned owls will catch prey up to the size of skunks,
Okay.
and regularly catch prey size of skunks and opossums, right? So from that size all the way down to a mouse, right? So they have quite a wide range, and we see science has shown that great horned owls for some reason will regularly catch skunks. That's probably because of the activity. Like skunks are active at night, so the owls out there seeing it catch it. Thing is, they just don't mind the stink of a skunk. You know, they don't have a very good sense of smell. Most birds, some birds do, but generally most birds don't have a very good sense of smell. And so the great horned owl is the same, where they don't seem to mind the stink of a skunk. I used to work in rehabilitation at Tri-State Bird Rescue and Research right here in Newark. And quite often we get skunks or great horned owls in that are skunked, that have been skunked. And so they're quite stinky, but they don't seem to mind. And yeah, so the skunk don't really have a weapon against the great horned owls. Yeah. But yeah, you'll probably hear the great horned owl in your region. The barred owl will also be seen more around swamp area as opposed to any other habitat. But the great horned owls are quite flexible, quite adaptable.
Do they stick around all years or decent amount of migration?
They generally are residential. The youngs may push out into the bigger territory because, again, it's about food resource, right? If there's plenty of food around, they don't need to go anywhere. But in the winter time, that's why birds migrate, is because they have to go look for food. And so some species, especially the owls, they won't necessarily migrate. Some will migrate, but generally great horned owls won't, but they'll expand their territory because they need to find more food. Yeah.
And is that the same for, like, so owls will kind of compete for territory? Do they also compete with hawks and crows and stuff, or is
They-
it more within the species?
Yeah, they will compete with other species, but less so. Only because they share a different niche, right? And so a great horned owl and a red-tailed hawk will prey on the same item, same prey, but they're hunting at different times. And so they avoid conflict that way, right? So usually a great horned owl will come out to hunt at dawn and dusk. So right about 5, 6 o'clock or so, this time of year when the sun starts to go down, then they start to be active. But that's when the red-tailed hawks go to bed, right? And so they don't overlap that way. But they are enemies in the wild. If they come across each other, they won't like it. You know? Who would win? Generally, the great horned owls are much more powerful, and they're much more stubborn in a way, you know. And they will, they will hurt. They will hurt you. This guy here, you can see he's got quite large talons and quite large toes. And I'm wearing this glove, and I always wear one size glove for all the birds we work with. But if he really wanted to, these talons can puncture this glove, you know, because they're sharp, but they're also very, very powerful. Again, if he wanted to, he could probably put me on my knees. But we trust each other, right, Albert?
Do owls typically lack saccadic eye movements and rely mostly on the movement of their head, or is this guy just not moving his eyes around?
Oh, great question. Yeah, that's a unique special adaptation, more specifically to owls. Owls, because they have such highly developed eyes, their eyes are quite large in comparison to their body size. Because of the large size of the eyeballs, they've reduced muscles, almost nearly eliminated muscles. So there may be very, very minimal movement at all, not even detectable to us. But because they can't move their eyeballs, they've compensated to moving their whole head, right? And the way that they've compensated is that they've developed more vertebrae in their necks than we do. We have 7 vertebrae in our neck. They've got double that amount. Right? So each of the vertebrae allows for more degree of turn. Yeah.
So then for the sense of smell you were talking about earlier, would that be more of a thing for owls that like are more carrion? Or I don't know if there are owls that are...
They don't necessarily have a good sense of smell. This structure here is mainly just for air exchange. You know, we don't know for sure, you know, to what level, but so far science has said birds generally don't have a very good sense of smell. There are some that do have a good sense of smell, but generally not. The vulture, for example, the turkey vulture, have got some of the best sense of smell in the animal kingdom, but that's part of their survival technique, their survival strategy. But these guys don't. These guys rely a lot more on visual and on hearing to be able to survive, to be able to hunt, right?
Going back to the neck and the vertebrae in the neck, is it because of the larger amount of the larger number of vertebrae in the neck, or perhaps the spinal cord is just more flexible that allows them a greater degree of lateral movement rather than just rotation?
Yeah, I don't know the scientific answer to that, but my guess is there isn't as much flexibility in it, but it's that there's just more degree of turn for each of those vertebrae.
Yeah,
right?
but if they're tracking sideways and upwards and backwards and forwards in all 3 dimensions rather than just rotational, is that also a function of the same?
I believe it's a function that it's got more vertebrae, but I'm not an expert in that. You're going to have to seek out someone who's more knowledgeable than me. Yeah. Someone who's got a higher degree than I do. Yeah. Google, right? Dr. Google. Yes. Yep. All good question, you guys. Anything else? I mean, we could talk about him all day, but we have a few more birds to move on to. Yeah? All right. Good job, Albert. Ready to go? He's ready to go.
Yeah, he doesn't like it out here.
Let's get out of here. Ready? All right. Believe it or not, we've got some more fun birds to come visit with you. Remember the connection I mentioned earlier? We are about to do another connection, so I need another volunteer. Young lady, come on up here with me. All right, go stand right up here. Do you like hats? Sure. Can you put this hat on? All right. Make sure that it sits nice. Yeah. Right. Imagine you're on safari. We're going to introduce you to some birds in Central and South America. Thank you. Perfect. You're well trained. We're going to sprinkle some magic seeds in your cap there. And so just stand by. We're going to go and retrieve some of our friends. You guys? Yeah. All right, buddy. Ready? All right. Hang on to your hat. Tell us your name.
Kristen?
Kristen. Meet our sun conures. These are sun conures. They're normally found in the rainforests of Central and South America. They are, unfortunately, an endangered species out in the wild. And part of that is due to the loss of habitat. And part of that is due to the fact that they're still being taken illegally for the pet trade in Central and South America, believe it or not. These guys were hatched in a breeding program in Florida and also here at our facility as well.
Where are they found?
They're normally found in the rainforests of Central and South America, but these birds individually were hatched either in Florida or at our facility here in Delaware.
So is it a re-release program?
No, we don't release them. It's quite difficult to release these guys back to the wild because of regulations, but these guys serve as education birds. Okay. All right, I'm going to give you guys a visit with our birds, if they'll come back. Oh no, the birds are gone. Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you.
Hi guys. Go ahead and take a seat.
We'll be here a while, huh?
We'll be here for a while, yeah.
Do they recognize you?
They do. Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. They can pick me out of a crowd. When we do big programs like Ag Day, for example, if any of you have been to Ag Day, when I play, we call it the B-roll, where I go out into the public and I'm not doing the presentation part of it. They will spot me in the middle of the crowd and hone in on me. It's incredible how they can do that. It's not something we personally train for, but it's something they just know. There you go. They're just trying to find a landing spot. Hey guys, there it goes. Good job, guys. Hi. We actually have a flock of about 13 of these guys, so we fly together. Hey, there you go. Anybody? Go visit our friend. Ready? Okay. Come on. Come here. Here. Atta boy. Good job. What are you doing up there? Ready?
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, they're very good at shelling their seeds.
See that? They shelled all the
Come on, bub.
Thank you.
Come on, buddy. Coming? Coming? Atta boy. Good job. There you go. They can, yes. Hey, buddy. Go on. Yes.
Thank you.
Here, come on. Good job.
How old are these guys?
These guys range between 7 and 3.
7 and 3?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And they're very social birds. You know, for that reason, we fly them as a flock. And you can hear they communicate with each other quite well verbally.
Oh my God, they're beautiful.
Do they have one that sort of leads the pack?
Not necessarily. They kind of switch like a little mob of swarm that's out there, and they just swap up. Yeah. But they do follow each other, that we know. You know. So usually, if we get, do you want to try it? Usually, if we get a bird that goes a certain direction, they all follow. Yeah. So whether that's flying home or flying away, it works the same way. Yeah. Let's try it. Palm? Palm up? Give you some seeds. No, you don't want it? Has anybody else wanted to try? Yeah.
I'll do it again if you want.
If you have to.
That's what you get.
Did you get a bird?
Yeah, I just had a couple of little ones. A couple of the ones left over from me. I gave it to her.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I'll try.
You've worked up the courage.
Yeah, I guess I do.
Come here, guys.
Can I ask you a random question?
Yes.
So you probably feed like little frozen mice or something to the owls a lot, or I mean, how do they turn all the birds seem to turn everything into that white glue?
The white is actually called urates. Yeah, it's part of their digestive food system. Yeah. There you go, guy. Looks like he's found a friend over there.
What is this?
We
What do you think you're doing?
these guys are quite intelligent, quite smart.
Yeah, I had empty ones.
Yeah.
He was like, no.
Yeah. I tell you, when we do these routines, when we ask them to fly out to an audience and they come back to me, there's always one that will not go because he knows better. Because eventually everybody comes back. And so he lets everybody go, and he just sits there. And then everybody comes back, and then he eats with everybody else. So, doesn't have to work. Yeah, so they're quite intelligent, quite smart. You know, this is how we try and make a connection with our audience. You know, hopefully you felt connected to these guys. And especially, you got poo on, that's extra bonus.
That means they really like it.
And especially when we're working with kids, young people, you know, that's the connection we try and make. You know, we can tell them all day long to conserve and save species and all those things, but until they get to experience it, it doesn't really mean much, you know. And so that's our purpose in doing what we do, is to make that connection with them. You know.
You go out to the schools locally?
We go out to schools. We do a lot of work with zoos, and we do work with the state parks and the federal parks as well. Yeah, yeah.
The schools was like kind of like where you really would grab them with the science.
Yes. I mean, we have done schools, but we haven't done enough. Not as much as I would like to. And a lot of that probably, part of it is my fault for not pursuing it hard enough, but also part of that is just that it's a hard match, you know, because so much has to fit in, you know. You've got to fit in the curriculum, you've got to make sure they've got the budget to be able to bring you in, so everybody wants it, but to make it happen is not easy. Yeah, so we catch them where we can, you know. Yeah.
These guys don't have to be siblings for like this flocking.
They don't have to be siblings. They simply just hang out because they are social that way.
What are they? Are they all males or females? Or
It's all mixed. Yeah, it's all mixed.
Is
Yeah.
there a way to tell or not really?
We can generally tell by DNA testing,
Oh, okay.
but visually it's very difficult to tell. The males can be a little bit bigger than the females, but that's it.
Okay.
Here, come on.
I got bit in the face last
Right.
He did. Oh.
Second when they were fighting.
Hey, come on. Ready? Here.
I don't know about you.
So all these are the sexes are the same looking then, or you know these birds so far.
Yeah.
Birds are different. We're having
Yeah, he's gun shy.
Yeah, it just depends.
So is it just their call that? How can a male, know what it from a wasp?
They have their ways,
Yeah. Okay.
but which I am not privy to. All right, guys. Here, finish that. Let me go back here and call them off. All right, guys. Come on. There's always one. Come on, dude. Come on, let's go. Let's go. And those are our sun conures. So once we make a connection with folks, then we got to teach something, right? We have to say, well, if you like those guys, here's what you can do. And here's what we're going to do. We are going to teach recycling. So, we need yet another volunteer. Yeah? All right. Come on over here. She was dying. All right, Brittany. We have some aluminum cans, right? You know what we're going to do with those? Hopefully, recycle them. Yes. So, can you make a washing machine?
Make a washing machine?
Is that what you said?
Figure it out.
All right, we're not going to do anything that complicated, Brittany. Not today, anyway. But we're going to have our friend show us how to recycle. Okay? So I'm going to bring him out. And if you can hand him one can at a time and see if he can show us how to recycle. Okay? Riz, come on, buddy. Right. Hey. Brittany, this is Rizzo. And Rizzo is a rose-breasted cockatoo. If you can take a step up forward for me. Yep, there you go. Now go ahead and hand him that can. See what he does with it. He drops it on the ground.
Oh.
Let's try it again.
Yeah, this is a little bit.
What do you do with that, Rizzo? I think he's saying you recycle. What do you do? All right. Can you pick up those again, Brittany? Let's try it again, Rizzo. Do you know what to do? That's where you go.
Right.
That's where you go. Okay. You ready? You ready? Let's try again. All right, let's try again, Rizzo. Ready? This way, over here. Where are you going?
Hi.
Where are you going? Hi. Where are you going?
Do you want this?
Rizzo is a rose-breasted cockatoo, if I haven't mentioned. They're normally found in Australia. What's happening? What's happening? A lot of times when we take our birds to location, generally they're pretty good. You know, they kind of take everything in, but once in a while, like Marvin would see the vulture, and you know, they kind of need a little time to get settled and get adjusted to where they are. All right, Rizzo, you ready? Okay, let's try it again. Ready? Here we go. What do you do? All right, Rizzo, not a comedy show.
Do they?
We're serious here.
You gotta recycle. Oh, yay.
Good boy, Rizzo. Attaboy, that's how it's done.
Do they recognize other species of bird? Oh, I'm sorry, that's my fault. I dropped it.
Do they recognize other species of birds? Mm-hmm. They sure do.
Do they get freaked out when they hear these guys over here?
Well, they know these birds. The question is, do they recognize other species of birds, like the birds that are calling here? The birds that come with us, they know each other quite well. But wild species, they have to learn about. Good job, Rizzo. Attaboy.
Implication that they each have different voices. So
They do, absolutely. Was that it? Did you do all?
Yeah.
not species-wide.
Both, yeah. Individually, yes, they can certainly recognize each other just by sound alone. Yeah.
Rizzo?
Yes,
He
yes.
kind of reminds me of an African gray. Is that
Reminds you of an African gray because they're grayish. African gray are grayish.
similar in size and
Similar in size, that's right. The African gray just don't have the red, pink chest
Yeah.
on them. They have a red tail.
But they're both types of macaws.
No, they're parrots. So all hookbills like this are called parrots, and then we separate them into different groups. So this is a cockatoo. An African gray is a parrot of its own family.
Okay.
A macaw is a group of birds of its own family that are parrots. Right. Attaboy, Rizzo. And so that's how we recycle.
Are any of these, so I know we don't talk that much about like people having these pets and stuff, like I assume it's not really ever a good idea to have
Yes.
parrots.
Great question. Yes, we normally, when we present parrots, almost in every routine with our parrots, we always remind folks that it's not a great idea to go get these guys as a pet, to get them as pets, because they're quite demanding. You know, they haven't been domesticated yet, right? Not like your dog or your cat. These guys are still very wild. Here you go, Brittany. Thank you. Who else helped me earlier? I forgot. Can you come up? So they don't make it very good pets. You know, they're still very wild, with wild genes in them.
And in
Thank
terms
you.
of like laying eggs,
Yes.
do they also lay eggs? Do the ones that you have also lay eggs? And that
Do they lay eggs? Yes.
kind of like hatching?
We do have some breeding programs for some of our birds where we produce the birds for our education programs. We also send the birds that we have to our colleagues as well in zoos and other programs that does similar programs to what we do. Yeah.
Because I know it's like for people who do own birds as pets, I think that's usually a hard process. Is
What's that?
that a lot will die trying to lay eggs? Or
Oh,
something
yeah.
along those lines?
Yeah, it's right. So there's a natural tendency in animals that want to reproduce, right? And oftentimes, if you have them as a pet, they can be conditioned where you're the partner, you know, so they want to breed, but inappropriately, you know, and that can create behavioral problems for the owner, but also for the animal as well. So that's why I say it's quite challenging to have these guys as pets. You know, it's not impossible. You can, but there's a lot of work that has to go into it. And you have to know what to do. You know, so they're, like I said, they're not a dog or a cat that you simply get and just leave in the house. You know, there's still a lot of wild genes in them, and they express them appropriately for them, but then it becomes inappropriate for the house. You know.
And are none of these guys pinioned? I know most of these. So
None of our birds are pinioned. All of our birds are free-flighted. And that's what we do. Yeah.
That big owl.
Yes. He's free-flighted. Yep. Yep. That's right. Okay, Rizzo. So he's here in the leaf blower. So he's reacting to it. As a trainer working with them, we've got to be aware of all these changes and make sure that we communicate to them and reinforce them that things are okay, right? So I'm up in my rate of reinforcement to make sure that he associates the leaf blower with something positive. Okay? Because in his mind, in the absence of reinforcement, positive reinforcement, he'll tell his own story that the leaf blower is something very bad. Yeah.
These are paired birds or social birds? These in particular.
Pair bird. Oh, whether they're flock birds or not.
Or like, do they just pick the one pair the way the rest?
They will breed. They will all breed. Most parrots will breed as a pair, and they will keep that consistent pairing. But they're also social, meaning they will also socialize with others as well. Yeah, but they will maintain that pair bond for as long as they live. Yeah.
How wide is their range of territory before it's conflicting with another bird?
That's a resource question. So because you can have them right next door to each other as long as the resource is there. A very easy example that you can see if you travel up and down the coast of the U.S. So from here down to Florida, if you notice ospreys, for example, up here in our area, ospreys will nest quite far apart, right? So you have to look for them. Once you get down to Florida, you look on the posts, the light posts, it's almost every other one is an osprey nest. That would not happen here because the resource is much more scarce here, right? The fish is so much more available in Florida that they can afford to be like that. Because that was an eye-opener for me, because I thought ospreys need big space, right? Because I have always seen them nest in very large areas, but then I would see them in Florida and they're 100 feet apart, you know? So it's really a question of resource. Yeah. Rizzo, I think you're getting fat out here.
Really quick work on that.
Yeah, that's right. All right, one more thing to share with you folks. So let me put Rizzo back here. Ready? Okay. So when we share with kids the connection and they get an opportunity to connect with the birds in our program, and then we tell them, you know, what they can do to help species. One other thing that they can do too is to be actively participating in something, right? A lot of times we say, well, go home and recycle and conserve and blah, blah, blah. But we don't really give people a chance to do anything. In our program, we give them a chance to do something, and that's to contribute to an actual conservation program. So we're not going to ask you to contribute to a conservation program, but I'm going to show you what that looks like. See, we collect money after our program, and that money, every single cent of this money that we collect goes to support a program out in the wild. So far we've supported Andean condor projects, scarlet macaw projects, and so on and so forth. And it's a lot of fun for kids to come up and be able to interact with these birds in this way. So I'm going to have a few of you come up and participate in this. Can you hold that for me?
Super trustworthy.
No.
Yeah.
Take it and run!
We're empowered.
Your hands are shaking. All right. Hang on to that. Let me bring a couple birds. Hey. Ready, Indy? Okay, buddy. Yeah. You ready? This is Indy. And Indy is a double yellow-headed Amazon parrot. And he helps us raise funds. So why don't you start us out? Just take $1 and hand it to Indy, if you would. And he puts it in a box. And it's that simple. So you folks, if you want to try, come on up, grab a buck from her. And
She'll keep it.
anybody? Come on up. Just grab $1 from her and give it a try. Come, Indy.
What's his name? Or her?
Indy?
Indy.
Yep. Get in there, Indy. Good boy. Atta boy. So it's a quite easy way for us to raise funds to support conservation projects. And it's a lot of fun for kids too. I mean, this is how they get that connection, right? To think that they can hand something to a bird, that's the physical connection that they are getting right then. And they'll remember that experience for most of their life. Yeah. All the way. All the way. Good boy.
He knew that it was no.
Yes.
Just give me this.
Oh, now she's challenging you.
Because it's not folded up all the way, right?
Some of our birds will learn, go ahead and try it again. Some of our birds will learn to roll the dollar. Yeah.
You got it in.
Good boy, all the way. Good boy.
He was like, I don't know what to do. It's flat.
Yeah.
Give me a seed.
Yeah.
I give up, man.
Right. It's flat. I can't do it.
Good boy, Indy.
That's so crazy.
And and so that's the purpose for the feathers that we collect from our birds, is for usually it depends on the program that we run, but sometimes we say for every $2 or more that you donate, we give you a feather from our birds. So it's something nice that kids can get back and they can remember.
His eyes are on the side of his head, so I feel like depth for sticking the dollar in would be just generally hard.
Yeah. So her.
He turned his head angrily.
Right, but then it's still just two-dimensional because you only get the one eye. Just what is that?
That's
His cell phone.
That's that's his cell phone. So that's his sister. That's Colin. Yeah.
It's not natural, right?
That's not natural. No. There's a lot of things they say that's not natural.
But the imitation, like the propensity to imitate, is very natural.
Imitate is natural. That's right, and that's what we struggle to present to public too, because we have birds that can actually sing, full songs. But that's our struggle, is that how do we present them as natural behaviors, which mimicking is a natural behavior, but that is not gimmicky, and that's our struggle, the line that we always have to find, where we walk. Yeah.
And songbirds, do they learn from family or from just anything in the wild, like if you play a recording?
Yeah, the question is, songbirds, how do they learn? Generally they learn from the parents. Yeah, the youngs that are growing up in the nest, they'll learn how to sing from the parents. There are some exceptions where they won't necessarily. They learn from the environment. These guys, parrots, have a tendency to be able to mimic, and we think that's just part of their social evolution, is that when they're out there in the flock, that's part of their language, right? So they've learned certain communication from their parents, but because they're social animals, when they're out there with a flock of 20, 30 of them, now there's more learning that's happening, right? They're learning the dialect of the other bird, and so they imitate that, and so that's how they communicate. Well, I think that's our program, folks. It's kind of a complete program. Thank you. I know you have to go. We'll be here for a couple minutes if you like. Come up and say hello if you want. Anybody who's really interested in feathers, we can give you one. No donation needed. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Thank you.